What's going on, guys? This is Jeff with Philippines Through My Eyes. I'd like to tell you the second part of my life story. Last time I talked about the early years. Basically, when I was born until my dad was arrested when I was 15 years old. At this point, my dad is out of the picture, and for some odd reason, I'm living with my grandma's friend across the street from my grandma. And that's where we're kind of picking up in part two of my life story. And, if you haven't subscribed, let me encourage you, subscribe to my channel, like the video, put a thumbs down if you don't like it, honestly. Also, hit that notification bell so you can know about when upcoming videos about the Philippines, about expats, about digital nomads, and advice on how to move a family or uproot a family and move to another country, and some of the advantages as well as the disadvantages of living overseas with a family. I've done it. I've lived half of my adult life overseas, specifically in Asia, and now plan to be moving my family once again from California to the Philippines, specifically into Mindanao, into Davao. And so I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about telling you guys more about that in the future. So like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you like this video, share it with somebody else. Maybe it'll resonate with somebody. But here we are. My dad's been arrested. I live with my grandma's friend across the street from my grandma. And this is kind of where my life takes a huge turn. This is, once again, I've lost everything. I've left the house I've known. I've left the abuse of my father. I've left the abuse of of just that house and the neglect, as well as everything else. And at this point, I move in with this lady that I probably met a handful of times. She's super cool. But she's not family. I don't really know her intimately in any which way. I don't know her, and she has a teenage daughter the same age as me. It's just kind of an odd thing. But nonetheless, I move into her garage, and I live basically in the garage that's below the the house, and I'm thankful for it. And I have a room and a place to call my own. And quickly, I began to try to figure out, how do I transition myself? How do I transition my life? This is not my permanent place. And so I'm going to high school. I'm still going to the same school. I'm commuting probably 30 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on traffic and everything else. But here I am, and I'm trying to figure out life. And so I began to sell drugs, and I began to, as I joke, take on the family business. I begin to sell ecstasy, and I'm just fighting, and I'm partying hard, and I'm really putting myself down a deep spiral. It's that repetitive decision by my family to self-destruct. And I don't know the psychology behind it, but I know that that's where I was going. I was destroying myself. I knew that my brother was already in the same path. He was selling drugs. He was mostly selling pot, but he was pretty deep into it at this point. Him and his his crew of guys who were doing it. I can remember on multiple occasions people asking if I was him. We look alike, except for he's blonde. And obviously not as good looking, but I'll defer from there. Sorry. And so, I'm just selling ecstasy. I got to connect at that point through my grandma's boyfriend at the time. He was in Oakland HA. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. But here he gives me a connect, and I go from one connect to another, and I start distributing on large quantities. From this point, I'm in and out of this lady's house, and I'm going from house to house. I'm kind of living on friends' couches, and living just from place to place, kind of bouncing between Oakland and Fremont at the time. I was going to school in Fremont, and just bouncing through the East Bay of California. And, as I was self-destructing down this dark hole, I'd lost that girlfriend, and I knew that there was really nothing going well for me. I knew that I had to get out, but I didn't know how to get out. And I think, like many people who struggle with addictions and struggle with terrible circumstances, they know that their decisions are bad, and they get to this point before they really self-destruct, that they need to get out, but they don't know how to get out. If you're in that point, I assure you, you can get out, make a good decision. You know, like I've said in other videos, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So make a plan and execute that plan. So at that point, I knew I've got to get out of the system. I've got to get out of this routine of just self-destruction, fighting, partying, womanizing, everything in between. I was going to school and I was selling at school. I mean, it was just a bad situation. And so sure enough, with all of those things, I decided I was going to join the Marine Corps. And that was cool for me. I was excited about it. But I still had about a year and a half before I was going to be able to sign up. I was probably 17 years old at the time, maybe late 16. And so I just had to get through high school. And I kept getting deeper and deeper, selling bigger amounts and living this wild life. And that was fun. Sin is fun for a season. We all know that. And so it was fun and it was wild. It was crazy, but I was so empty. I remember my wife looking at a picture of me from way back then and saying, wow, you look so angry. You look so cold. And it really was what it was. It was empty. It was cold. It was just an isolated place for me. And so sure enough, I was there, and I miraculously, I graduated high school. I didn't really do much during high school. I played sports, and I enjoyed that. I played football and I wrestled, but I kind of wasn't committed because I loved working out. I loved going to sports. I loved competing. I really enjoyed that, but I wasn't committed because I wasn't mentally very strong. I was a broken little boy stuck in a young man's body. And this broken little boy really just didn't have any emotional connections to anybody, and that was the problem. And so I miraculously finished, and I could remember my principal, who kind of knew the whole situation that was going on. And looking back, he just turned a blind eye to everything that was going on with me because he knew if the system would have got me, I would have went down a darker path. Now, he's never said that to me, but that's really what I believe. And he was just a huge help to me. I had a few other teachers who just loved me, and they were great teachers, and they all knew my situation and kind of knew that I was just destructive, and they just were really just hoping the best for me, but they didn't want to lose me. Just add that, as you look back, you can kind of see those things. And so I graduated, and on my graduation, my principal said to me, it's a miracle you're here. And I took that as kind of an insult at first, but looking back, it was. I thought, what is he saying? Am I an idiot? But that wasn't it. It was a miracle that the system never got a hold of me, and I never got caught doing what I was doing, and he just wanted what was best for me. He was just one of those guys who was a really caring principal. And so with everything going on, I graduate, and I spent that entire summer lifting weights, drinking, fighting, partying, womanizing, you name it. I was just doing it. And I knew this was basically, as I thought, my last hurrah, before I went in to the military. And for about 6 weeks or so, I just destroyed my emotional state through these substances and everything else that I was going through. And I ended up going to boot camp. I can remember the day, August 1st. I flew out July 31st, and I went in August 1st. And boot camp began, and for 13 weeks, 13 and a half weeks or whatever it is. And then I graduated from the Marine Corps. And at this point, I thought I was going to be a metal worker, but the Marine Corps saw differently, and I'm so thankful that they saw differently, because I became a combat engineer, and that was secretly what I really wanted to be, but there wasn't a contract for it specifically at the moment. And so I got to become a combat engineer, and so I went over to North Carolina. And when I was in North Carolina, I met a ton of guys from the East Coast. I met a guy from England. I met another guy from Ukraine. These guys were all in the Marine Corps now. And South Africa, Jamaica. I started meeting all these guys from all over the place. Now, growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, you meet people from all over the place. But this was unique because this was men I had no former contact with, and we all come together because we're in the Marine Corps. And now I'm meeting all these guys in combat engineer school in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And so while I'm there, I'm asking questions about their culture, and I'm really enjoying my time with him. Now, I was still self-destructing. I was still really going down a dark path of drinking and partying. But the unique thing was that I wasn't doing drugs anymore because the Marine Corps tested that. So the drugs were gone, but the self-destruction was still there. And so I was partying with these guys. I was fighting with other people from different units at the clubs or wherever else we'd go. We were just running wild. And so at that point, you kind of go through about 4 months of training. And I had learned how to be a combat engineer. Now, anybody who wants to know what a combat engineer is, they said that it's the jack of all trades, master of none. Basically, it's minesweeping, demolition, construction, log obstacles. You kind of name it, we did it. It was really a preparation and a great MOS, or a great job during the time of Iraq. It was kind of everything you needed. We were that. And so there we were. And we get to the end, and they request, where would you like to go specifically when you deploy? And you basically said East or West Coast, East Coast, or overseas. And the Marine Corps is small, so you have a few bases on each. And so I said, I want to go to the West Coast. That's what I know. I'm a California boy. I got to go to California. Secondly, I want to go to the East Coast because I'm already here. I already know what it's like. I've been through the winter. That's the worst part. I want to stay in America. And then thirdly, overseas. And, you know, I'm a kid who never really traveled. I hadn't really experienced much. I had rode my first airplane at probably 16 years old. We didn't travel a ton, so because it was just, I didn't have family to do that. I didn't have the structure to do that. And so I didn't want to go overseas. Absolutely not. But then we get our orders the week before we graduate. And so we get these orders, and my orders, as I opened them up, I knew I was going to California. And I opened it up, and it said Okinawa, Japan. I was broken. I don't know why I had an attachment to America or California, but I absolutely did not want to go to Japan. I didn't really know anything about Japan. I had known a few Japanese people in my life, but I didn't really know anything about Japan. Besides, I didn't want to go there. And so sure enough, there I was. I get orders. So there was another guy, he got California, and he did not want to go to California. So we got together, and we were kind of complaining about it, and he wanted to go to Japan, I wanted to go to California. And so we decided we were going to go, and we were going to put in a request to switch orders. We were both the same rank, we were the same job, we graduated boot camp the same time. We are on paper the exact same people. And so we requested it, and it's been known to be accepted before, but it very quickly was denied. Now this kid from the East Coast is going to the West Coast. This kid from the West Coast, me, was going overseas. And we graduated, and 4 days later, I take a flight to Okinawa, to Japan. It's my first overseas flight. I'd never experienced that before. So I fly from San Francisco, or I first fly from North Carolina to San Francisco. I spent a few days in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm literally crying about it. I'm complaining about it. I'm drinking the whole time. And then I go up to Seattle, and I fly from Seattle to Tokyo, Tokyo to Okinawa. And this is my first time overseas. I didn't know really what to do, but I had a terrible attitude through it, and I was emotionally distraught. And so this is where we're going to stop today. But this is when I arrive in Okinawa. This is March 2007. And March 2007, I get to Okinawa, and I have arrived in what they call receiving. And this is basically a week where they give you an orientation, and then you go to your unit and you kind of climatize at this time as well. So we're going to end here, and then we're going to go through my Marine Corps time and after this. But thank you so much for listening in. And this is obviously a kind of a transition time in my life. I'm going through something completely unknown to me. But if this is your first time watching, subscribe, comment, like the video, share it if you really love it. But really hit that like button. That helps with the algorithm so others can see, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can see my next videos. Thank you so much for watching. This is Jeff with Philippines Through My Eyes. I'll see you next time.